lesson to be learned was big. I'm from Maryland, grew up there, but I had it there. It made it all the way
Hmm.
over there. So then, given that the album had done so well, how then did you guys end up getting with the In a Minute, the City Hall stuff to where that was the next album and got a little bigger push probably nationally? How did that end up happening?
How did we get over to In a Minute?
Yeah.
We got over there because what happened, I had pressed up 1,000 tapes and took them to the stores on consignment. And from there, what happened was I end up uh TC was already with Totally Insane. They had came out before us. He ended up going over there to City Hall Records and did a deal with them. So by the time we pressed up that thousand, I mean, by the time we sold out that 1,000, we went around all the Frisco stores, left them in there, left them maybe 10 CDs or whatever. They sold out. They hit us back. Oh, we need 10 more people looking for it. This and that. Take some more. And TC and I guess a lot of the stores start calling City Hall trying to put in orders, and they didn't have none. So TC was like, man, I think Jason was asking about y'all. Y'all probably need to come out there and holler at Jason. And I was like, Jason, who's Jay? Like Jason at the Music People. In a minute. They got they distribution, they do distribution, and they also got a label. We signed it Totally Insane to them. You know what I mean? We actually they had just signed. He was like, yeah, we just signed Totally Insane to them. So you might want to go out there and talk to him. So we went out there. Jason was like, "Yeah, man, people were asking about it. You got any more tapes, any more cassettes?" We was like, "Nah, we don't. We only got probably a couple hundred left. We about to press up some more." We like, "How many you want?" He like, "I need about 5,000." And we like, "Oh shit!" Like, damn, we didn't know he was gonna need that. We thinking he gonna need like a couple more hundred or something. We like, okay, we gonna go press some up and come back and talk to you. So what we did was we went and got uh, we brought him 1,000 up there. He sold those out fast. He paid us for them. And then he asked for the other five. He's like, yeah, what's up with the 5,000? We like, okay, we're gonna press them up now. But we was kind of hurting on the money a little bit. So I just didn't want to just press it up. So what I did was when I left him, that's what I left him that 1,000. He didn't want to pay me right away. And I thought he was just gonna pay me right away. And he didn't, and he wanted that other 5,000. So what I did was I went and got my boy Ed, who was a executive producer on the album. I ended up going and borrowed some money from him. Like, dude, I need you to help me press up these CDs. I'll keep you on, split the profit with you. I just need to press up 5,000 copies. And he was like, oh yeah, I'll put the money up for you. And like, no problem. So he pressed up the 5,000 for me. We took them back over there. When we brought them over there, we left them over there about a week. Jason ended up paying us for the 1,000. And then he ended up calling us back like, man, these is moving. He said, instead of y'all me having to wait for y'all, how about y'all just sign to me? Let me take over the pressing, and I'll pay y'all $5 up front. $5 for all the ones that I owe y'all. Give y'all the $5 for those, which will be 25,000. Then I give you an extra 10 to sign. So that sounded hella good to me. I didn't know we was getting ourselves at the time, but we was like, hell yeah. I was like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? He's like, nah, you might want to talk to a lawyer to look at the paperwork and all that. Cause I was ready to sign right there. I was just like, yeah, I'm just trying to get leave with that check. But yeah, he ended up putting us with a lawyer that he hooked us up with. That's what was so crazy too that we didn't know at the time. He's like, yeah, I know a lawyer if y'all don't got one. We like, no, we don't got one. Can you help us get a lawyer? He's like, yeah, I know this lawyer that y'all can go talk to. And it was Jason's buddy. So he worked with him. You know what I mean? So he's like, yeah, this is a good contract. Yeah, y'all need to just sign it. And man, we signed that contract and signed a bullshit deal. But we were just happy to just get out. We didn't even care at the time because we didn't know we didn't know it was gonna take off like it did. We did. I really didn't even care at the time. I was really trying to go back to the block with that money and try to re-up, to be honest with you. I wasn't even tripping. And yeah, that thing took off. And after that took off, once we hired a manager, we got Tone to be our manager. This dude, Tone Jackson, he was real smart, knew about the stuff he was managing, Totally Insane and IMP at the time. And once we signed on with him, he educated us about royalties, mechanical royalties, and got on us about signing that contract. He like, oh man, all right, we just gonna make the best out of it. Y'all only getting, a couple of points. You signed, you only really getting like 13%, or it was something tiny like that we was getting. It was like, what? He was like, yeah, man, y'all kind of messed up with this deal. So yeah, we end up yeah, getting within a minute like that through TC, through following IMP, because we knew IMP was over there too. Cool Nut and them, they was over there. And then once Totally Insane was over there, we just like happy that he even wanted to give us some money and sign it, because I felt like I can go in there and make a bunch of that stuff again. It was just coming so easy to me to where I didn't really care. You know, I was just like, yeah, I'll take extra 10 on top of the 25 you owe us. So yeah, that's how that came about. Which I do give him credit. He blew us up. He got us out there in places that we normally probably wouldn't have hit doing it out the trunk ourselves. You know, like he got us out there to them Detroits and, you know, Kansas Cities and a lot of, like, you know, a lot of places like that. And by the second album, I had educated. I knew about a whole lot about the music game and how it worked and how the point system worked and how the recouping, and how the reserves and all that stuff worked. So it was definitely a lesson learned.
And then when you guys are going, when you're saying getting out to Detroit and Kansas City, did you guys end up doing a lot of shows in the Midwest, even at that?
Yeah, that's where our money came from, was the shows, because we barely received a check from Jason. Because what happened was we was running around on them shows so much we didn't even really pay attention, because we didn't. I think we had Tone. We signed Tone maybe a couple of months later. We didn't get him right away. Yeah, we got him a couple months later, and he was like, "So what about y'all royalties and stuff like that?" So we was running around living off the shows. We was getting 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 a show, going up to Seattle, going to Portland, going out. We lived in Detroit, Pontiac, Michigan, Lansing, Flint. They loved us out there. We pretty much stayed out there. Went to Kansas City a couple times, and yeah, back throughout the Bay Area and stuff. So we was doing a bunch of shows just back and forth around up north, like I said, Seattle and Portland, and yeah, Tacoma, all that. And we wasn't even paying attention to the fact that we didn't get a royalty check yet until we hired Tone. And that's when all hell broke loose. Once Tone guy came in, he like, yeah, we need to go over here and see the shipping reports, because at that time too, a little while later, SoundScan had came in. He was trying to show us SoundScan reports, and a lot of the stores back then didn't have SoundScans. They were just over the counter. So we didn't know about having to see the shipping reports. Tone knew about all that. He was like, nah, we need to see shipping reports, because you trying to show us SoundScan. They only SoundScan 10, 15,000 units. We know y'all sold more than that. So once we got to see the shipping reports, we seen that he has shipped out maybe 100,000 units, like 60,000 units he had pressed up. And he was saying, oh, they still out there. And then he was like, man, this is months later. You ain't no reserves came back. And when he Song got to looking at the report, and that's when he started trying to come up with excuses. Then later on, he said, oh, I got hit with lawsuits from George Clinton and Prince and all these dudes publishing. He was talking about all they little publishing companies and stuff, talking about they requesting he got to hold back royalties on our album because we had all them samples that wasn't cleared, because I was just sampling and I didn't realize that you had to pay for them, you know, at the time. I'm like, yeah, just use Beastie Boys. Yeah, use Salt-N-Pepa. Yeah, use this, use that. And having a field day and not realizing, man, you got to get all that cleared, especially when you come out on a label like In a Minute or something like that, man, they're going to put you out there. It ain't like I'm still out the trunk where I could probably fly under the radar. Now I had to pay on all that. So he was like, yeah, I got to withhold it. It's going to be in the trust fund. So by the time we finish, depending on how much it's going to cost me to clear these samples, then I'll pay y'all. So yeah, it ended up being a whole mess to where we barely received any royalties. We probably got around maybe 60, 70,000 off that first album. And then he had to withhold a whole bunch of stuff. And he like, man, why don't y'all just go in there and start on a new album and let's do it without no samples this time, so y'all can get paid. He said, because right now I'm still clearing samples. I can't pay y'all, but I am saving the money. I am putting it up. So he got us with that. And we went in there and recorded the second album and tried to stay away from samples. But yeah, it got ugly over there and In a Minute. It got real ugly.
Well, let's talk about a few of the songs on Ruthless by Law. The bounce to this, I was interested because with Selsky doing a production on it, what made you want to expand, since you, in my opinion, had done a great job working on the first album? How and why did you guys decide to start using other people to help?
Well, at that time, I had a bunch of stuff that I could have used myself, but Selsky had came along. He was hanging around us. He was around us a lot. And he just was, you know, he was letting us hear a lot of beats, and I liked his production. He had a bunch of stuff that I really wanted, but every time I was picking stuff, he was kind of, I don't know if he was keeping it for himself or he was being a little kind of a little stingy with it. You know what I mean? He wouldn't let me get it really. So, but he had some dope stuff. It was similar to my production. We was looking for like a new sound. I wanted to get away from samples, which what was crazy is early on, before we actually did a Lessons to Be Learned, I was making a bunch of original beats. So I had a bunch of original stuff that I had did. It just so happened once I went to TC Studio, he had that sampler where you could do a bunch of sample time. And like I said, he knew how to do all that, work with the samples where you could slow them down and knew how to do that time stretch to make them fit and blend. So we went with the samples, but I ended up, you know, Selsky had a bunch of original production and enhancing them too, with him being around, him and TC being heavily involved. I was just like, you know what, let me go on and just try and get enhancer and them involved a little bit more. So Selsky was really the only one I actually let get some production on the album because he was hanging with us a lot. And you know, we was real close friends. He was with us damn near every day. You know, once we met him, we got real close in TC Studio and we pretty much stayed locked in all from 92 all the way till we started on our second album. So I was just like, you know, I'll give you a couple beats, you know, you end up doing some stuff. Because even like the credits we gave to him, only one I really say he really did was Bounce to This. Everything else pretty much that we gave him credit for, like that Living That Life, that was really an Enhancer beat. Selsky came up with the sample, but Enhancer played that over. He flipped it. He the one did all the work to it. The sound, Selsky found the sample, but Enhancer produced that. You know what I mean? Enhancer did a lot of that, the work on that. Oh, I give Selsky Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangster too. That beat too, which I kind of really played over and really did. It was like a demo beat that he had inside his keyboard that had the little bass line riff, and then I kind of took it and flipped it. But I gave him credit. I just wanted to give him the credit for a lot of the stuff. But Selsky really only did Bounce to This on that album, you know. But yeah, he got some credit that he shouldn't have got. But you know, that was my dude, so I wasn't tripping.
Well, it's interesting hearing that, but I do think that reason I was asking too is I do think sonically, I know technology had changed even a lot in that little bit of time, but then also just having a different input, I think did bring a different sonic level to Ruthless by Law. So
Right.
I was always interested in his, his contributions. And then we had talked about Bluebird, which of course is a great one, but on the I Got My Nine, shouting out Mac Mall and the Shake Your Rump reference and all these different things
Right.
you guys had on there. At this point in '94, the Bay, I would say, was, way taken off. And you guys obviously were a big part of that. So as you see people like Mac Mall emerging and becoming stars in their own right, how did that change how you were thinking about your own career? How did that affect your outlook?
I really Mac Mall and them, when they came, they changed a lot. Him and Sibo kind of had us kind of like really thinking like, man, we got to get back to the drawing board. We gotta, between them and then bring it in, like I had ended up starting my label around that time, Right Way Productions. I ended up having Hitman around. Hitman started being around us like around the end of '93, going into '94, and NOH. A lot of them influenced our flow style. Like the way we rapped on Lessons to Be Learned was totally different than how we started rapping on Ruthless by Law. Like we start trying to speed up a little bit on our flows, like, you know what I mean? All that old, I don't know, it was sort of like an old school flow that we had on the first album, but the way Mac Mall and Sibo and a lot of them dudes, they rap style was just so, it was like advanced. We was like, oh man, we can't come sounding old school. We got to switch it up. So it was a lot that we was looking at their production with Kyrie, with Mac Mall and them, and E40 and them too, because they had already been using original stuff. So it was like a lot of that's going into, like, it was '94. It was like nice production coming out. And it was that's when that mob was really kind of like coming. That mob sound was really, really, really kicking in, and that influenced us a lot on our decisions on which way I was going with the beats, because I was always into the funk, into the parliaments, funkadelics and all that. So I was just like, you know what, I'm finna just come with my own type C-funk type funk mob type sound. You know, I'm still wanted to be an RBL, but I want to be different than how Studio Tone and Kyrie and a lot of them was producing. So, and Mike Mosley and Sam Bostic, a lot of them, you know, they was doing their thing. So yeah, it was just like around that time, man, that production was just so fat. I was just so blessed to be able to be around a guy like Enhancer, man, who was able to enhance all my production. When I come in there and I'm playing my keys, he'd be like, oh, that note is off. Sometimes I'd be like, nah, leave it alone. I like how it sound. I'm going off sound. Don't mess with it. Or Enhancer get on there and like, oh, no, that lead you doing, let me play it. He'd get on there and really play because he know his chords. He'd make the whistle on Bluebird, like the Bluebird whistle that he played is way different than the one I had. He reflipped it and man made it sound so dope. So it was good to have him around to do stuff like that, man, to where, you know, I was able to upgrade my beats, man, upgrade the heat, up a notch or two. So yeah, 94 was a big year, man. I'd say 93, 94, man, set it off to where, like you said, it was the Bay was on the rise, and we had a bunch of nice production, bunch of producers out here who was making slaps, man. I ain't gonna lie, shit.
Absolutely, man. And people talk about people getting underrated. The whole Young Black Brother movement, man. That was they were killing the game in this time.
Yeah, killing the game, man. I ain't gonna lie, I was a big fan of Mac Moore. That's why I put his name in there. I was a big fan of him and Sebo. They was like my two favorite back then. As soon as I met Sebo, I was like, man, this dude spit. That Gas Chamber album. Then as we first heard that, was on our way home playing that from a show. I think we had a show with Sebo at a college somewhere. And he gave us a CD. We got in the car, man. We was playing that. I don't think we just looked at each other like this time. We got to upgrade. It's like, man, we got somebody on us. And he was a fan. He was hella cool, man. He ended up kicking it with us, came to my projects, hung out with us. Sebo, man, we clicked off as soon as we met. Man, that's the homie, man. That was my boy. Yeah, we knew we had to upgrade though.
I spent a lot of time with Sebo over the years, so I definitely he's the man. He's the man.
Yeah, man. Shit.
But with the Enhancer, with living that life in particular, I wanted to know at this point, since you had now been making songs and had an album out and working on a new album, how did you find using other people's beats? Did that affect your writing? Like how you like approached lyrically things? Like how did that affect it, if at all?
It really didn't affect it, but I did notice that I did do a little bit, because when I'm making my beats, when I'm in there and I'm hearing it playing over and over, sometimes it get harder to write to it. I got to kind of put the beat to the side, or let Mr. C and them take it, play with it, maybe come with a hook if I don't already got a hook to it. And then I got to come back to it because I'm hearing it playing over and over so much that it's just the repetitive. I got to get away from it. But when I hear other production, like I walk in the studio here living that life, I'm automatically ready to write, because I wasn't in there when it was getting made. It's like I'm just hearing a finished beat, and it was like, oh shit, like damn, okay. I actually liked that because it actually kind of got my juices going. I would say, like, as soon as I heard it, I'd be like, ooh. But if I'm hearing a beat constantly looping, I'm trying to find something to put in it, them dudes got to hear, they're coming there, and they kind of like got to start sort of like how I am when I'm walking in on Selsky and them beats, and I'm hearing the stuff. I'm like, ooh, okay, that's what he came with. All right, then what a pen and pad at, you know? So Mr. C and them will come in there and be like, okay, man, that'd be dope. And he'll get right to writing, but I won't feel like writing to it because I've been in there with it for a fucking hour or two, looping over and over in my head. So, you know, I don't be that interested in writing at the time. So once we cut it off, I go to maybe a couple other beats, pull it back up later on at home. Then I'll be a little bit more motivated. But it was fun writing other people's beats. I wasn't a dude who wanted to just produce the whole album. I didn't really care about that. You know, if I had tracks for it, I'm gonna produce for it. If I didn't, I didn't. You know what I mean? If you got some heat, I'm gonna go with that. You know, I didn't care about getting production credit. And at the time, I didn't really know how important it was. Even like on the first album, I never even put that I produced all the beats. I just said produced by R.B.L. All the beats produced by R.B.L. except G's by the 1-2-3s, which I produced everything. Then I knew how important it was to break down each song later on, like let people know you produced it, you know, because a lot of people didn't know. The only person name we labeled was TC. People thought TC produced our whole album, even though we say all beats produced by R.B.L. except G's by the 1-2-3s produced by TC. People thought TC produced the whole album. just that one line, people didn't really read into it and really break it down. It was like, TC produced your album, who's TC? You know, he became famous from that one song, Jesus by the 1, 2, 3s, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy how people don't even really pay attention like that.
Nah, not at all. Now, also, Herm did the outro on Ruthless Bylaw, of course, with the message. So why have him do the outro compared to the intro of Lesson to Be Learned?
We just wanted to be different. We was just like, man, we got to start this album off. We just wanted that bounce to this to come in kicking. We didn't even want to have Herm talking and coming in at the beginning. Plus, we just trying to just be different than the first album. He did the intro on the first one. Let's make him do the outro on this one. You know, that's all. It wasn't really nothing to it. It was just like, yeah, let's just do something a little bit different to switch up from our first album. That's all it was.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
There's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.